Hello guys. Today we're gonna talk about the movie Platoon. Here, Platoon. It's a war movie here. I was talking about it the other video, and I just realized, you know what, I should talk about this movie. Now, granted, here's something to keep in mind. I did briefly talk about my 2017 top favorite movies, and I originally wasn't gonna review any of those movies and this, but over the years, I kind of broke that rule a few times, just because, for one, many people haven't watched those videos, and to be honest, I don't blame them. They're very long, and a lot gets talked about in those, so I don't really, and not really to the full extent that I kind of think should be. So every once in a while I just pick one of them and do it just for shits and giggles. But yeah, this movie was released in 1986, actually the same year as The Wraith from the last one, which is interesting. It's rated R, big year for Charlie Sheen too, and it's 2 hours long. It has 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb with about 400,000-ish user votes. The movie has 92% on Metacritic with 134 critics. The movie's directed by Oliver Stone, who also did Wall Street, that Charlie Sheen's also in. The movie stars Charlie Sheen, who, you know, The Wreath and Two and a Half Men and whatever. Tom Berenger, who also did Substitute and a bunch of other stuff. Side note, this movie has a big time cast with a lot of names. So I'll throw in William Dafoe's in this too, just for shits and giggles. On Rotten Tomatoes, the movie has 87% by critics with 70 critics and 93% by audiences with about 100,000-ish audience people. The critics' consensus on Rotten Tomatoes is informed by director Oliver Stone's personal experiences in Vietnam. Platoon forgoes easy sermonizing in favor of a harrowing ground-level view of war, bolstered by no-holds-barred performances from Charlie Sheen and William Dafoe. And this movie, let's see, this movie is streaming on Amazon Prime right now. It's available to rent and buy on Apple TV, Amazon, Google Play, YouTube, Vudu, Microsoft Store, Redbox, and it's available to rent on, what's that? Charter Spectrum. That's what it is. And the movie was released on DVD in 2000. So this is one of my favorite movies. Everything about this movie is executed perfectly. The acting, the writing, the atmosphere, the camera work, the action, like everything is just well executed. Like the cast, like everything. Like this is in my opinion, this is one of those perfect movies. I'm not gonna lie, I think I've only seen this film once. I bought it on DVD, I watched it once, and it left an impact with me that I'll probably never leave. And one day I will rewatch it, but it's one of those movies I have to dedicate time towards. But yeah, big thing. But here, the reason why I wanted to review this movie, and I think because out of all the big war movies, specifically Vietnam War movies, I think Platoon gets the least credit. And the biggest reason why is because I think between Apocalypse Now and Full Metal Jacket, this film I think gets lost in the shuffle. And the big reasons why is because Full Metal Jacket was a Stanley Kubrick film, and it has that famous first half. The second half's great too of that film, but that one I could review too at some point, because that one, considering Kubrick films, that one I think gets on the lower end of talkabouts. But Apocalypse Now, which is a fantastic movie by I can't believe I'm blanking on his name, Francis Coppola. But here's the difference between this movie and those two. Because Full Metal Jacket is very Kubrick driven, and it is a two-half movie. And some people like that, some people don't like that. So that's something to keep in mind. I think, and I don't want to get too far with that movie, but that's kind of the difference there. Apocalypse Now, there's a famous quote that says that some people do movies about Vietnam, and that movie is Vietnam. And the thing with that movie is very atmosphere driven. That movie does its absolute best to like capture all Vietnam, like capture the whole tone and feel the Vietnam War all in one movie in every single aspect possible. It's a very tone and atmosphere driven, that movie. This movie, though, in my opinion, is the best because, really, for the simple reason, it's the only movie that's directed by someone that actually went and experienced full on, full hard the Vietnam War as an actual veteran. And that's the big difference here, and you feel that in this movie. Like, this movie, when you watch it, you feel so close with the group, the army group. You feel like you're in war with them, and you feel, and everything in the film feels and looks tall, and you feel so small in that environment because everything feels like it's trying to swallow you up. It captures every aspect of what it is to be in that war from probably the best perspective possible. Now, Full Metal and Apocalypse Now, they're great interpretations of the Vietnam War, while I feel like Full Metal kind of looks at the effects of just like war in general, as opposed to just being specifically the Vietnam War or whatnot. While Apocalypse Now focuses on the Vietnam aspect of the film, the fact that it was like, it focuses more on like the culture and the tone of that time period and its effects on and how it engorges into Vietnam and the Vietnam War. I think this film is really the one that not necessarily finds the balance between the two, but I think it's the one that focuses more on the soldier themselves specifically. Full Metal Jacket, you can argue, does that a lot too, but I think this film kind of does it a little better, just mainly, like I said, because of the director. Not to say those other two films I mentioned are bad either. They're great films, and I'll probably talk about them at some point too. Maybe in a comparison video between the three. But I think this one, to me, just feels like it captures the most about that war in a nutshell because of that perspective and that feel and tone from the director Oliver Stone. And you can feel that. Oh, one thing, my favorite aspect of this movie, though, is the soundtrack. The soundtrack to this film it's in my head, in my heart and guts all the time. I just can't, it just sticks with me. Oh. But that's the thing, too. And it's weird, too. Like, to be honest, it's hard. I had to say between the three, the one that's closest with this one, I would say, is probably Apocalypse Now, because Full Metal Jacket, the way it's paced and stuff, kind of throws people off a little bit, and not everyone likes it. But Apocalypse Now, in my opinion, kind of captures more of the Vietnamism and what it's like being there. But the difference, though, is that movie goes for a more overall look of the Vietnam War and how it in the cult, like in the time period, the culture, and while it is, I would say it's an ensemble film like this one they use the ensemble film to explore the different caricatures. And you know what, in all actuality, I think this Apocalypse Now is a little bit more comparable to Platoon because they kind of try to do things in similar ways. Full Metal Jacket kind of goes a completely different way with it, with a lot of things. But I think what makes Platoon, I think, go above Apocalypse Now, like I said, is the fact that that tone and that feel the director had, and they channel it into this movie. I think that's what makes the difference, because you can feel Apocalypse Now. It's like, it's a very well told story of Vietnam and everything. And it's well told in a very unique and visually stunning and really perfection. And it's a perfect film in its own right too. But I think in terms of capturing what it felt like to actually be there firsthand in the war, I think Platoon does it better. I think that's what pushed it over the edge. Other than that, the films are completely different, but yet very even. But to be honest, I'm going to be honest with you, all three of them I've only seen once. So, to be honest, I'm going by the striking memories, and all three of them left very striking memories on me. But I also will admit I probably should watch them again to kind of get a better idea of the differences. Because I think, like I said, but I think Apocalypse Now, the focus on that film is more about the overall feel and vibe of not necessarily soldiers necessary, but the whole war and time period in a nutshell. While Platoon's more focused on like the experience of it a more from a more like warlike perspective, while Apocalypse Now was more focused on like, it's hard to say, but there now it's delivered like a drug-induced haze. Like it's delivered like everything, like the whole environment and the whole movie's like high on something like 60s high, while Platoon's a very like straight, I would say straight nosed, like it's told very straight nosed and very hard edge, while Apocalypse Now goes a more trippy vibe with it a little bit. And that's really the best way I can say about it. But yeah, I ended up talking about both movies right there, all three of them. But there's not much to say about Platoon because everything's so well executed. But I guess for me, orders would be Platoon #1. I would say Apocalypse Now 2 and Full Metal Jackets 3. But I may flip-flop things around between those two, but Platoon will always be #1. It's just, to me, I think the film, it just gets everything down in a nutshell. I do recommend it for sure, and it's plentifully around. I will briefly mention, because I didn't mention this in the Wreath video, that movie too it's around too. It was released on DVD. It's available to see pretty easily. This movie is too, without a doubt. Like, this movie's on DVD and everywhere, so you shouldn't have a problem finding it to see. But I do recommend it for sure. It's one of my favorites. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. In case you want to chat with me, Mike, or anyone else at the Campy Company, don't want to use the YouTube comment section, we do have a couple options. The first one is we have a Discord channel. You can find a link to that in About page / About section of our channel. We also have a discussion time on our channel as well. You can access that through a PC or laptop computer. We also have a Patreon page in the works. The main goal of the Patreon page is to raise some money to give the channel a little bit of a budget to work with, and also to start making merchandise for the channel, which we can do fun stuff with too. So any support we get from that will be very much appreciated. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the videos, and have a good day.